to the Eternian Stories channel, where today we're going to be doing something I've seen another YouTuber do, and I kind of want to make it a little bit of a series in general whenever I think of writer questions, or when, you know, I see some that I'd like to see answered, or people ask me questions and whatnot. Maybe I'll write down some of them. But we're going to be doing the first of a series of writer questions, you know, questions that people ask writers, and I think it's really cool to learn more about a writer through asking them questions and whatnot. So we're just going to get started. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It might be really long. There's only 5 questions, but I did write quite a lot about them. So the first one is, what word processor do you use? Which for me, I use an app called Dabble, which is it's so hard to explain what the app is because it's so cool. Because, I mean, I've never been sponsored by them, but I will always recommend this app to people because it's like an all-in-one app. It's like Scrivener, but less complicated, and it costs a lot less. I mean, it is a monthly subscription, but I get it for $4.99 a month because every year that I win the November NaNoWriMo, I get a coupon code for half off, so I just kind of use it every year, and it works out great. But it's like it's so hard to explain because I can write the manuscript, of course, but I can also, I don't know how to keep this in front of me while I'm doing this. There, we'll leave it right here. So it's an all-in-one thing, so I can write the manuscript. I can also make notes and do story building things. Like, I'll have to maybe insert it later, but this is very hard to explain. I think my favorite part, though, is that I can make folders for different kinds of notes because I have so many notes. And I don't need a notebook anymore to keep all my notes in because it's all on the platform. And then it's cross-platform, so I can use it on my phone, I can use it on my tablet, I can use it on my computer, my laptop if I ever fix it. And it all just kind of syncs together and works together. Prior to using this app, I definitely, you know, had a notebook, sticky notes, notes on my phone, notes on my desktop. Everything was really messy. There were notes all over the place, and so now I love that I have one place to keep all of them, and I can look at them anywhere, anytime. It feels really good to have a more organized way to keep track of my novel as I write it, which is fantastic. So as I always say, I will always recommend this app to people. And I'll leave a link for it in the description because it's just an amazing app and it's not very expensive. Can I undo that? There we go, okay. So the second question is, do you always write your scenes in order? I do pretty much write them in order, but I call them sections because my novel is told from the point of view of 4 different people, so each person gets basically 1 to 2 scenes, so I just write them as sections. At the beginning of writing it, I tried writing it from one character's perspective, and it just didn't feel like it was working, and it was the main character's perspective that I was writing. I got about a quarter of the way through the story and felt like it needed more dimension, so I added 1 more character, the love interest, her point of view. But even then, I got about, I'd say half to 2/3 of the way through the story, and then I added 2 more characters. Hopefully I'll stop there because, man, this is going to be a long book with 4 points of view. So now I write 1 scene from each character and then wash, rinse, repeat. So it'll be Xander, Celine, Damien Blatt, and then Xander, Celine, Damien Blatt, etc. Moving on through the whole novel. And I haven't finished the novel yet, but I do have about a quarter of it written this way, and it feels like it's flowing a lot more than it did before because we're seeing a lot more parts of the story and how different characters feel about different things. And the story feels like it's moving a lot more than it was before. It felt like it was just kind of jumping from place to place. And to me, that's the best way to write, is to write it mostly in order. I mean, if I have a problem with a scene, then I'll outline at least what I want to have happen there, and then I'll move on to the next one and come back to it later. But usually I just write them all in order. And the next question is going to be, when you were in school, were you able to work on your writing or personal creative projects? So, when I was in high school, I remember freshman year science class. I think it was called Earth and Space Science or something. I ended up failing the class and had to take physics later in high school. But me and my best friend at the time would share a desk. Like, I would get one of the stools from the lab, boring it over, because it was one half of the room was the lab and the other half was the classroom. It should have been divided with a wall, but it wasn't, so it's just one very large room. So I would drag one of the stools all the way from the back to the front, and we would share a desk. And whenever we were never listening to what was going on in the class, instead we spent our entire period writing small horror stories for each other. After that, I mean, I ended up being homeschooled, so the time I spent in school or in class was to get my classwork done and learn things. So at that point, I had a lot more free time to write because I wasn't, in school for 7 hours a day. I was just watching, videos or taking part in classes and whatnot. So my last 2 years of high school were at a small Catholic school. I'm not Catholic, but that school was the best thing that ever happened because it was so small. Like, I'm talking, I graduated with 8 other people, and the entire high school had 46 people the year I graduated. Anyway, so my junior and senior year, I spent most of my seminar periods in the morning writing the novel that I have since lost the manuscript for and everything because I moved so many times. I don't have the laptop I had anymore because it was a shared laptop with my family, and I don't have any of the notes and stuff. I moved about 5 times in the same year right after I finished high school, so I did lose a lot of things in those moves. But in summary, I spent every free period I could working on my writing when I was in high school. Now being in college, since I did online school for a long time, or for a year, and then this year is this 2 years of school I finished? No, this is 1 year of school I finished. My bad. I'm trying to think of when I started school, because I started in the fall of when Corona started. So that would be last year into this year for spring. Yeah, so I finished my first year of college, mostly doing all of it online except one class I had in person because I had to be able to film things for my cinematography class. Other than that, I mean, I had all the free time at home to do my writing and whatnot when I wasn't working on schoolwork. So that first year of college, I haven't really had free periods at school to work on my writing. Although, going into my next year, going into my fall classes on August 19th, I will have a lot of time in between one of my classes because I think it's 2 classes, and then I have like an hour to 2 hour break between the last class of the day. So from 12 to 7, I'm at the school, but I have a big break in between to either work on schoolwork, or if I have my work done for the day, I'll probably work on writing, watch Netflix, do whatever in the student lounge. So that way, or being in the student lounge instead of going home and coming back a few hours later is a lot easier and a lot less gas will be wasted. So I'm just going to stay at the college from 12 to 7 and work on writing, schoolwork, reading, whatever. I'll just kind of do whatever I want in that time, but I probably will have time to work on my writing. So the next question is, how do you outline? Which for me, I usually do a 0 draft, which I didn't know that's what it was called until a YouTuber I watch all the time, Kate Kavanaugh. It's writing as far as you can into the novel idea until you feel a huge block. Then you start to outline, but not in a lot of detail, enough to get the story moving again so you know what's going on for the next, little bit, and then you can keep going, and hopefully from that little outlining you can finish the novel or get further into it. For me, that's the easiest way to write because my mind moves so fast when I write that if I write a whole outline, it wouldn't really work because I would forget too many things I wanted to have or details I wanted to add. Then when that draft is done or nearly done, I make a full outline of that story so I can make a first draft, which is a lot less of a rough copy. It's a first draft, it's the whole story, but it's still kind of a rough draft, but not as rough as a 0 draft. A 0 draft is pretty dang rough. Like, I don't want to show you guys my rough draft or my 0 draft for the novel I'm writing right now because it is pretty crazy. But I used to do the same thing, actually, fun fact, I used to do the same thing when I would write essays for school in college, high school, whatever, because the teacher always wanted an outline first, but that's not how I write. I literally just write the whole thing, outline, and then rewrite. So I would finish the essay and then make the perfect outline from that, so that's how I write in general now. So I guess high school kind of set the way I write because, I don't know, the first time I wrote an essay, I kind of remember it very vaguely. as I tried to write the outline and I was like, I don't know what I want to write about yet. So then I just started writing paragraphs, and then I would put the intro and the outro at the beginning and end after I wrote the body paragraphs, and then I would make an outline from that. So that's just how I write now, because that's what's most natural to me. And so, yeah, that's how I outline. It's very strange, but I feel like everyone has a different way of outlining, so that's how I do. I zero draft, outline, rough draft, which would be draft 1, and then probably finish the outline after that, because I don't think it ends up being finished at that point. So after draft 1, I remake the outline and then go from there. And the last question for today is going to be, how do you feel about writing only when inspiration strikes, or do you think writers should be writing every single day? This is a hard question, because I'm a little bit on the fence about this. Some months I write the whole month, or I write almost every single day. While other months I write like once a week. Like this month, I wrote most of the first week, but then each consecutive week I wrote maybe a couple times a week, once a week. So I feel like I lean more towards writing when inspiration strikes. But for me, it's more like writing when I feel like writing. I don't have to feel inspired to write something specific for the story, or like I have this idea for the story. I usually just write them down on my phone's notes. But I feel like there's a lot more beneficial for most people to write when you feel like writing. Like if you don't want to write, you're not going to write as much, and it's going to feel like it's dragging on and writing. Even 100 words at a time is going to take you 10, 15 minutes, where it could take, a couple minutes if you're really feeling like writing. So good music helps the process a lot too. I've been listening to Lily's theme from Harry Potter for a while, and it's just an epic song piece, and I love it, and it's helped me get a lot more writing done, because it's just such a beautiful piece. And I definitely don't think you should force yourself to write every day, unless you think that's something you can do. I'm all for pushing yourself, a little bit further every time, but unless writing every single day works with your schedule, works for you, etc., I don't think people should have to push themselves. I think you should start with once, twice a week, then maybe move up to 3, 4 times a week, and then just kind of move up from there to what feels comfortable to you. And I mean, you really just have to find what works for you. If writing every single day works for you, that's fantastic. And if it's not, just take your time to enjoy every minute you have to spend crafting your novel. Just find what works for you, and, just write that novel however works for you, whatever's most comfortable, all those things. So, let me know down in the comments your guys' answers to any of these questions, or if you have any other questions for me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.